In the middle of the city, zombie-like creatures known as rotters are killing and eating people all over the place. As everyone runs to hide, a reporter tries to keep covering the event. However, the rotters soon catch up and kill both her and the cameraman. Chaos and destruction continues to spread through the streets as the rotters show a certain amount of intelligence by breaking windows to reach the people hiding. A woman tries her best to avoid any danger while talking to her daughter on the phone, but unfortunately a rotter begins chasing her and she gets eaten too. This all started 4 hours ago. Medical student Zoe and her classmates are in a lab, where a professor asks for theories on how the rotting body in front of her died. Zoe recognizes it as influenza yet fails to recognize what kind. Moments later, the professor asks Zoe to take a blood sample from a patient who has an unusually high level of antibodies. Zoe follows orders, but she isn't happy to see Max, a regular patient who is obsessed with her. As soon as Zoe starts taking the first sample, Max begins saying all kinds of creepy things, not taking a no for an answer. To Zoe's disgust, he's even gotten her name as a wound on his arm. Once Zoe has taken both samples, Max touches her thigh and Zoe gets uncomfortable, but luckily her best friend enters the room just in time to kick Max out. Afterward, Zoe joins a party thrown by the medical students. She hears they're keeping beer kegs in the morgue and goes there to help bring them to the party. Once inside, she can't see anybody around and moves carefully, only to suddenly be startled by a moving body. However, this is another partygoer playing a prank. The guy grabs the first keg and leaves while Zoe is grabbing the second. At that moment, Max shows up and starts getting creepy, ignoring Zoe's protests when he says they have a connection. A scared Zoe screams for help and Max punches her, causing her to fall. Then he throws himself on top of her and starts taking her clothes off, intending to take advantage of her. As Max starts licking Zoe's face, the rotting body from the class wakes up and attacks Max, biting him hard. Zoe immediately runs back to the party, warning everyone about some kind of monster. People don't take her seriously, but they soon change their minds when the professor reveals to be infected as well. She immediately bites a student as the rotter from the morgue also shows up to keep on killing. The partygoers scream and begin running away as the creatures keep on feeding or even puking all over people's faces. Zoe climbs through a window and tries to save her best friend, but the professor soon reaches her and bites her neck. More rotters jump on her to feed and Zoe watches her best friend get eaten and infected before running away. 5 years later, the world is a very different place. The rotter outbreak has become a global pandemic and the few remaining survivors live in special refugee camps. Zoe managed to survive by reaching one of those camps, but then she was assigned to High Rock Bunker, an intelligence and recon military station in the mountains. The base is surrounded by fences and the soldiers shoot the rotters when they get too close to anyone passing by. Zoe's mission is to gather information about the rotters for the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention or CDC, although they haven't heard from them in a year. Lieutenant Miguel thinks Zoe's research is a waste of time, however Zoe stays optimistic and never stops researching possible solutions with her assistant Elise. Her medical knowledge has also made her the base's doctor. One morning she checks on a kid named Lily, who is still feeling sick even though she's already been given medicine. After a thorough examination, Zoe rushes to meet with Miguel and the council to inform them that Lily has bacterial pneumonia. Zoe wants to go with a team to her old medical lab at the university to gather supplies to save Lily's life. At first Miguel refuses, explaining it is too risky to go past their usual search distance for just one person. A furious Zoe points out the infection could spread through the bunker and kill the few survivors, so Miguel has no choice but to agree. After the meeting, Zoe is visited by Miguel's brother Baca, who is also her boyfriend. They start getting frisky and when things are about to escalate, Zoe remembers Max's attack and stops Baca from going further without explaining why. The next day, Zoe leaves with 2 teams led by Baca. There are a few dead rotters outside the base, but for most of the trip they don't see anything else. In the middle of the journey, one of the cars suddenly breaks down, so they are forced to stop and fix it. The surrounding forest is quite thick and they won't see the rotters coming, so they need to hurry up. However, night eventually falls and the vehicle is still not fixed. Suddenly they hear growling and rustling coming from the forest, which makes them tense. Thankfully they finish fixing the car then and everyone rushes back inside. The vehicle fails to start and a rotter appears at the window, but before a horde can reach them, the cars finally take off and the team leaves safely. A few hours later, they arrive at the university and Baca divides his team in groups. Half the team stays as guards at the entrance and the other half escorts Zoe through the building. They can see blood and broken things everywhere, but luckily the pharmacy is locked and safe. Zoe knows the password and opens it, allowing the team to gather tons of medicine for the bunker. On their way out, Zoe finds her old lab and stops while the team goes ahead. She grabs her old pictures and a bunch of stuff that could help with her research. Suddenly a back door opens and a rotter appears, so Zoe shoots once to scare it before running back to the hallway, closing the door behind her. Then she shoots a few more times just in case and runs, dropping her hair tie in the process. This is found by the rotter from the lab, who turns out to be Max. He smells the tie and immediately recognizes it. The sound of gunshots alert other rotters in the building, who come out to search for humans to the point they fall off the stairs. Baka's team also hears the noise and goes looking for Zoe, thankfully finding her first. They get ready to leave, but the rotters soon catch up and jump on Frank, quickly biting his neck. The others manage to shoot the rotter down, but more creatures appear and also attack Frank, who tells his team to leave without him. As the others rush out of the building, Frank uses his last breath to shoot and stab as many rotters as possible. The next morning the team makes it back to the bunker, unaware that Max has come with them by hiding under a car. While Miguel and the guards are distracted by Baka's report, Max uses the chance to sneak away unnoticed. Miguel scolds them for losing a soldier and Frank's girlfriend insults Zoe, blaming her for her loss. Among the trees, Max hides and watches some kids play with a ball outside the fence. Soon a guard makes them go inside, but a kid stays behind because the ball has rolled away. When he's about to wander too far, the guard finds him and sends him inside, promising to get the ball for him. Max quickly jumps on the soldier and kills him in seconds. Then he runs toward the bunker, managing to sneak inside unnoticed before the doors are locked. There are too many soldiers around, so Max hides in the air vents and uses the smell of the hair tie to track down Zoe. Meanwhile Zoe rushes to give the medicine to Lily. On her way back to her room, Max finally sees her and starts following her, but he freezes when he sees Baka getting to her first. The couple chats and shares a kiss, which makes Max furious with jealousy. At the same time in the maintenance room Lily's father hears a noise in the vents and thinks it's a rat. He climbs into the vents and is found by Max, who immediately attacks him. Moments later Lily's mother Wendy comes looking for her husband and sees the blood on the vent lid. When she opens it, her husband's body falls out and she screams before running away. Unfortunately Max follows her and throws her against the lockers before dragging her away by the leg. Meanwhile Zoe checks on Lily, who is feeling better. Max gets back in the vents and watches this, waiting. When Zoe leaves the room, Max comes out and blocks her way. Zoe immediately starts running and manages to activate the intruder alarm before Max corners her against a locked door. He pulls up his sleeve to show her name, making Zoe finally realize who he is. Then Max pushes her against the door yet doesn't bite her, he just gets handsy. At that moment some soldiers show up and open fire, bringing Max down. Zoe suddenly acts as a shield and asks them not to kill him because Max is alive and intelligent, so he's the clue she needs for her research. Baka throws a net at him and with the help of his teammates they chain Max up in the lab. When Miguel learns about this he immediately starts scolding, so Zoe proves this is a breakthrough by offering her arm to Max, who doesn't bite her. Zoe is sure something in his brain is still working and could help her produce a vaccine. Miguel still doesn't buy it, but Frank's girlfriend overheard this and asks him to keep the rotter so Frank's death wasn't in vain. A reluctant Miguel lets Zoe keep Max but orders the soldiers to shoot at the tiniest sign of trouble. Sometime later, Elise and Zoe are looking at some scans of Max's vitals and discover that certain parts of his body are dead, but his heart, eyes, and brain still retain human function. To understand why, they need a blood sample. Elise keeps her gun up while Zoe approaches Max pretending to flirt and takes the sample while he licks her face and says her name. Later that day, Baka checks on Zoe and makes Max even angrier. Zoe explains Max's blood has a high level of hormones, which could possibly stop the virus. However, she can't tell which hormonal gland it is, so she needs virus samples from other living rotters to find the differences. Baka doesn't like the idea very much but Zoe convinces him there's no choice. They wait until it's dark enough to take the samples without telling Miguel. Baka takes a team to the main gate and they carefully let one rotter inside, who immediately gets overpowered and held down. Zoe quickly takes a blood sample and then Baka shoots the rotter in the head. They let one more rotter in but while Zoe takes the second sample, more and more rotters gather at the gate. Eventually the soldiers can't hold it anymore and the rotters rush in, jumping on the men to feed and kill without hesitation. The other soldiers open fire and kill a few rotters before rushing back to their cars. Elise is at the wheel and before she can take off, a rotter bites her arm. The rotters see the cars leave and start following them. At the bunker, Miguel is looking for Zoe and sees Max, noticing the name carved on his arm. This makes him think Max is Zoe's lover and she's only keeping him for personal reasons. At that moment the alarm wails and Miguel rushes to the bunker entrance, where the cars are coming in. He and other soldiers fire at the rotters to keep them back, managing to close the gate before they could enter too. Then Miguel yells at everyone and notices Elise's bite, so he takes out his gun. Zoe points out the infection hasn't spread yet and it'll take time because it wasn't a head bite, so her vaccine could cure her. However, Miguel doubts the vaccine will happen and shoots Elise in the head. A furious Zoe starts yelling too and Miguel turns his gun on her, but Baka calms him down. Before leaving, Miguel gives Zoe 12 hours to finish her experiment before he kills Max too. Baka follows Miguel to his office, asking about his attitude. Miguel tells him about the name on Max's arm and implies Zoe has been cheating on him, so he thinks she's got ulterior motives. Confused, Baka goes to see Zoe, demanding an explanation. Zoe finally confesses what Max did to her and how she has to live with the resulting trauma. She's hurt by Baka's lack of trust and leaves. In the lab, Zoe continues her research while two soldiers bring her a drink. One of the soldiers comes too close to Max to insult him, causing Max to grab her by the neck and hit her head on the wall. The other soldier immediately pulls them apart and Max uses the chance to steal the chain key. After the soldiers leave, Max keeps calling Zoe's name and saying she's his, but Zoe ignores him and keeps on working. A few hours and a bunch of tests later, Zoe confirms that Max's blood keeps the virus at bay and can be used as a vaccine. Even those already infected could fight the virus before it reaches the brain. At that moment Max finally breaks free with the key and starts choking Zoe, who grabs a jar of chemicals and throws it at his face before running away. She finds the soldiers and sends them to the lab, only to discover Max is already gone. The team rings the alarm again, telling civilians to remain in the township. Lily gets scared and goes looking for an adult, only to find Wendy transformed into a rotter. A chase ensues and Lily bumps into a soldier, who is jumped on by Wendy and immediately bitten. Lily is caught in a corner, but before Wendy can kill her too, Max shows up and kills Wendy first. In the township, Miguel tells the civilians that everything is under control to keep them calm, then he orders Baca's team to kill Max even if the vaccine isn't ready. Meanwhile Zoe is looking for Lily and follows a trail of bodies, grabbing a gun from a fallen soldier. Eventually she discovers Max has kidnapped Lily and he wants Zoe in exchange for the kid. Zoe threatens to self-delete and a furious Max almost kills Lily, but Zoe puts the gun down and Max lets Lily go. While the girl hides under a vehicle, Max captures Zoe by her hair and then opens the gates to let the rotters in. Some creatures try to bite Zoe, but Max protects her. At that moment the soldiers arrive and open fire, killing as many rotters as they can. Miguel quickly shoots Max, who lets Zoe go. A rotter manages to find Lily, who runs out of the bunker and Zoe follows her. As Max follows them as well, the soldiers keep shooting at the rotters, but unfortunately there are too many of them. The rotters surround the guard by the door and kill him, allowing them to go deeper into the bunker and start killing civilians. Person after person falls to their deaths as the two guards there try their best to kill as many rotters as possible. Soon they're all down, but one of the soldiers has been bitten in the neck, so her partner has no choice but to shoot her in the head before she transforms. At the main gate, Baca gets bitten in the arm before he shoots down the last rotter. Miguel closes the gates and Baca tries to stop him because of Zoe, so Miguel threatens to shoot him. Suddenly two rotters come out of hiding and jump on Miguel to feed on his guts. A third one attacks Baca, who fights him and manages to shoot him before firing at the other two. The rotters go down, but it's too late for Miguel. As Baca reopens the door, another rotter comes out and bites him again before it gets shot. Meanwhile Zoe finds Lily and they hide in the greenhouse. Max sees them through the window and rushes inside, following Zoe's smell. He finds her jacket on a table, but it's a trap. Zoe comes out from a pile of dirt and attacks him with a gardening knife, opening his stomach before decapitating him. Afterward Zoe and Lily go back inside and find Baca, who is about to self-delete. Zoe convinces him to wait because the infection hasn't spread yet, so she has time to finish the vaccine. Moments later at the lab, Zoe gives Baca her first vaccine attempt. Thankfully it works, and now she can use his antibodies to produce even more. Then Zoe sends a message through the radio, inviting people to come to the bunker to get the vaccine. The survivors are already rebuilding and have more hope for the future now. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.